So Hillel read the two Rambams, and we see Kasha. The Rambam chose to leave out mitzvos and only talk about the aspect of Talmud Torah mitoch shelo lishma bal lishma. Why? The question is, why did the Rambam specifically choose to include Talmud Torah and not mitzvos for mitoch shelo lishma bal lishma, if the Gemara says both? Okay. The Iglay Tal asks this Kasha, and he gives an answer. He says the Rambam is going l'shitasa. The Rambam is going within his own reasoning, and he is almost forced to say only Talmud Torah mitoch shelo lishma bal lishma, and for mitzvos shelo lishma is not good, and it's not going to lead to lishma. Why is this l'shitasa? So the Iglay Tal says that the Rambam holds of a concept called Mitzvos tzrichas kavana. This concept means that if one is doing a mitzvah, they have to have proper kavana while doing the mitzvah. They have to have the right intent and thought process. Otherwise, they are not yotei the mitzvah. So how does the Iglay Tal prove that the Rambam holds of this concept? He gives us a Maramakum, Rambam in Hilchos Shofar Perek Beis Halacha Daled, which we're going to see momentarily. But until then, take my word for it, the Rambam holds Mitzvah Tzrichas Kavana. Fine. So why is this important that the Rambam holds Mitzvah Tzrichas Kavana, and how is this going to help us answer the question? So the Iglay Tal says, because the Rambam holds the concept Mitzvah Tzrichas Kavana, now, picture a guy doing a Mitzvah Shelo Lishma. If you hold a mitzvah requires proper intent, this guy's doing it not with the right intent. He's doing it Shelo Lishma. He's not doing it for the best reasons. And if you hold that a guy needs kavanah while he's doing the mitzvah, as the Rambam holds, which we said, then this guy doing the mitzvah Shelo Lishma is not going to have enough kavanah to be yotzei the mitzvah. Kavanah and Lishma are intertwined. Meaning, if the guy's doing it Shelo Lishma, he doesn't have the proper thought process, then his kavanah is no good. And if his kavanah is no good, then what? Then he's not going to be yotzei the mitzvah. They're intertwined. And because he's not going to be yotzei the mitzvah, okay, that's a mitzvah it's a ma'aser mitzvah, but he's not going to be schar, he wasn't yotzei it. So the Rambam's going to say that it's no good. A mitzvah, he says, Talmud Torah, mitoch shelo lishma bal lishma, because that's Talmud Torah. But when it comes to mitzvahs, which you need kavanah, then it's no good. A mitzvah that needs kavanah, and you're doing it shelo lishma without the proper thought process, it's going to be just a ma'aser mitzvah, no schar, and therefore the Rambam leaves it out. So again, one more time, try to say one more time so everybody understands. When it comes to Talmud Torah, mitoch shelo lishma bal lishma works fine. When it comes to mitzvos, what's the problem? You need kavanah to get schar in the mitzvah, to be yotzei in the mitzvah. And a guy doing it shelo lishma, he's not doing it for the right reasons. He's not doing it with the proper kavanah, and therefore he's not going to be yotzei the mitzvah. And if he's not yotzei the mitzvah, we're not going to say the concept of mitoch shelo lishma bal lishma. We're going to look at that Rambam I promised in Hilchos Shofar Perek Beis Halacha Daled that we were sent to by the Iglay Tal. Okay. Page 8 in the source packet, Halacha Daled. Hamasasi b'tkiyah shofar l'hitlamed lo yatsi yedei chavasa. The guy's practicing blowing shofar to be a Baal Tokea. He's not yotzei at all. Fine. V'chein hashomea min hamasasek lo yatsa. And similarly, the guy who's listening to this guy practicing, he's also not yotzei. Okay, fine. New case. Neschavin shomea latzis yedei chavasa. V'lo neschavin atokea lo tzia. If the guy who's listening to the shofar blowing has full proper kavanah, but the guy who's the Baal Tokea, the guy blowing the shofar, does not have proper kavanah. Oh, or another case, sheneschavin atokea lo tzio, v'lo neschavin hashomea latzis lo yatsa yedei chavasa. Or another case where the guy blowing the shofar has proper kavanah, and the guy listening doesn't have kavanah. In both of these cases, it's not going to be yotzei. It's not going to be good. Why? What's the common theme? The common theme is that in both these cases, one of the parties does not have full, proper kavanah. And the Rambam clearly states here, by saying the last four words, that both parties need to have full kavanah in order for the mitzvah to be good. And this is where the Iglay Tal was able to establish that the Rambam holds mitzvah tzrichas kavanah.
So what Jake just said about the Iglay Tal addressing the steer and the Rambam might have sounded very nice, but he glossed over one important fact. And that's the fact that Talmud Torah is somehow separate from all other mitzvos. As far as I know, in the Rambam Sefer Mitzvos, he seems to include Talmud Torah as one of the 613 mitzvos. So therefore, it would be considered just like a regular mitzvah. And if so, the Rambam holds mitzvah tzrichas kavanah. And if so, then Shalol Lishmah Bo Lishmah would not apply to a regular mitzvah as we just established in the Eglei Tal. So in order to explain how Talmud Torah rises above all other mitzvos, so we're going to have to see the Kesef Mishnah, who applies the same concept by eating matzah on Pesach. Okay, so starting in the Kesef Mishnah on page 8 in the source packet, so starting from Divrei Maskil Miskavim, so this is his question. So Harav Baal Magi Mishnah, so he brings down the Magi Mishnah, Zechron L'Bracha. Hevi, so he brings down Ahid Rabbi Zera Perak Ru'u Bezdin, so he brings down a Gemara in Rosh Hashanah. So in Perak Ru'u Bezdin, so Rabbi Zera, so the Omar Lishmah, he said to his attendant, Ikavin utakali. So have kavana and blow shofar for me. Umaskana, and the Gemara concludes there, Ad shikavin shomei mashmiya. So the Gemara concludes over there that both the one who's blowing the shofar and the one who's listening both need kavana, and then the mitzvah will be fulfilled in its entirety. And that seems to be the source for the Rambam for mitzvah srichas kavana. So that's what we just said, and the Kesef Mishnah is bringing that down. And now he's going to ask his question by bringing down the other case of matzah. Utama, and there's a question on Divrei Rabbeinu Zechron L'Bracha. By the way, classic Rebbe question, who is Rabbeinu referring to here? That's a potential question on the final, just saying. Okay, Divrei Rabbeinu Zechron L'Bracha. So it's a question on the words of the Rambam, Zechron L'Bracha. Shepasak, Perak Vav in Hilchos Chametz Matzah. He paskin in Perak Vav in Hilchos Chametz Matzah. Shem achal matzah below kavana. If one eats matzah without kavana, kiyon shem suhu akum yotze. So if a person is forced to eat matzah by goyim, so he's going to be yotze. And obviously, if a person is forced to eat matzah, he's not having kavana. So as opposed to this case by Hilchos Shofar, where according to the Rambam, he's going to need kavana. So this is a question. And this is the same question as the separation between Talmud Torah and Shofar. So this overarching question is eventually answered by the Kesef Mishnah. So the Kesef Mishnah answers that in both these cases, by Talmud Torah and matzah, so what's the similarity? So if somebody's forced to eat matzah, so granted they're not going to have the intent to fulfill the entirety of the mitzvah, however, what they will have is hana. So because no matter what happens if he's forced, he's still going to have some aspect of pleasure when he eats the matzah. Same thing by Torah. When anybody learns Torah, they're going to get an immense gishmak from learning it. Of course, they might not have the full intent like a third grader whose Rebbe gives him candy in order to read a Gemara. But, of course, they're going to still feel some kind of enjoyment from learning Torah. So that's what separates Talmud Torah and Matzah. And that's why Mitzvah Srichas Kavana does not apply.